Okay. See here. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Still Here Virtual Summit. I am so glad that you are here joining me tonight. I'm excited about tonight's show. But before we get started, I want you to help me tonight just to take a moment to not only say hello, I see you over there in the comments, but take a moment and share the broadcast. Tonight's show, we are talking about the other pandemic. We are going to take some time to talk about the different things that are taking place in our lives today, in the world, I should say. And I'm excited because I know that the information that will be shared here tonight will certainly help propel you towards your destiny, will help you as you continue to navigate in these challenging times. My guests tonight, they are experts in their own field, and I know that the information that they have tonight is going to be valuable. So if you would just take a moment with me, I am going to do the same thing right now. I am going to share the broadcast. And as we do that, I ask that you join me too. So I see you over there, Diane. Hello, how are you? I see you, Ernestine. I see you, Tracy. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And again, I'm just asking that you would just take a moment to not only just say hello, but to go ahead and share the broadcast as well. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we're sharing right now, and we are going to just ask. I'm asking for your patience. We're going to get started in just a moment. Just taking a moment to allow some people to come in and join us for this discussion tonight. We know that it's going to be impactful. It's going to be empowering, and we're just excited. So again, take a moment and say hello. I'd love to know who's here with us today. And in addition to saying hello, take a moment to share this broadcast because we want to get as many people on here live as possible. The thing that I so love about Facebook is that you can watch the replay. So what I want to do at this time is just take a moment and to thank those of you who are watching the replay. And if you're watching the replay, I'm going to ask you in the comments to just write replay in the comments so that I can come back and say hello to you and provide you with any information that you may need during your viewing time. Okay. So I see you all coming in. So please take a moment, come on in and take a moment to share. Okay. I see you all. I see you all. Come on, come on, come on. And again, as you're coming in, I'm welcoming you to the Still Here Virtual Summit. And tonight we're talking about the other pandemic. Okay. All right. I see you all coming in. So again, thank you to those of you who are sharing. Thank you for sharing. And if for any reason that you find that you're having difficulties tonight over here on Facebook, feel free to jump on over to YouTube. We are live streaming, not only here on Facebook, but we are also live on YouTube right now. So if you can't watch here on Facebook, feel free to go over on YouTube. If you know individuals who feel more comfortable about dealing with YouTube, they can watch it there. And even if you post comments in the YouTube, we will be able to see them over here on this side. So again, I welcome you all. Thank you all so much for being here. As you're coming in, we're waiting for a few more people to join us. And we're taking time to share the broadcast because we know that the information that we have for you tonight is valuable information and it is going to encourage you. So as you're coming in, I am going to take a time to introduce myself. My name is Marcella D. Moore, also known as Cella D. I am the life giver, the reminder, the motivator. I am the director and founder of Motivate and Pray Incorporated, and also the CEO of Marcella D. Moore. We created and started these Still Here virtual summits back in April at the very beginning of the pandemic. And our goal was to provide a platform where we can gather together and you can receive information that will help you navigate through these challenging times. We have experienced this COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a first go round for us, and we've learned to manage dealing with so many issues. We started out with this Still Here virtual summit talking about my spiritual self, my business self. We talked about addiction. We talked about mental health. We talked about health and fitness. We talked about, we had nurses come on to give us some information that is helping us to be able to continue to navigate as we go. So again, I welcome you all tonight. And tonight I'm excited about my guests. They are amazing in their own right. I'm so excited that they said yes to be here with us tonight. Both of them are very busy and they have a ton of other things going on, but they took time tonight to come here to join us on this platform, to share information with you and to engage in conversation that will allow us to look at our reality and not only just look at the reality, but offer some solutions so that we can move forward in this understanding that we have power within us to become change agents in earth. It's about getting information. Many people say knowledge is power. Well, I like to take that another step and another level. I don't necessarily say that knowledge is power. What I do say is that what you do with that knowledge becomes power. So you can have a bunch of information and a bunch of knowledge. If you're not making time and taking time to work with that knowledge and share it with others, then it's really like Dr. Miles Monroe said. He said one of the wealthiest places on earth is at the graveyard, at the cemetery, because so many people leave this earth dying with their gifts. So we not only want to give you information and resources, we want to offer solutions that we know will help you navigate through this journey. And so at this time, I am going to introduce my guest to you tonight. My first guest, his name is James G. He is the chief of staff for Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman. I met G over 15 years ago, and when I met him, we were campaigning down in Trenton. I can't remember. I want to say maybe Doug Palmer, but someone was going for office down in Trenton, and I met him back then, and he has been moving forward, and he has been doing so many great things ever since. So I am so grateful tonight that he decided that he wanted to be a part of this conversation tonight. His voice is valuable in the earth, and I'm grateful for him being here with us tonight. Hey, G.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you're here with us tonight. And now next joining us is a young man who is, I tell you, he's a game changer. He's a change agent. He's doing some amazing things in the earth. He has some technical difficulties in terms of his video. I'm not sure what's going on. I just know that he is still here. His name is Ashton Burrell. I met Ashton some years ago. We have been on panels together. We've attended church together. I supported so many of the different things that he has done. And he is amazing. And I just want you to welcome Mr. Ashton Burrell with us tonight. Ashton, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let me ask you this before. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So were you able to do anything with your video? Is it going to be like this for the rest of the night?
No, I'm waiting on, I just actually sent the text message. I'm waiting on this laptop to get here.
Okay.
And I'll jump right on video, but I'm on this for right now.
Okay, well, we can hear your voice. So there's something about voice too. So video is always good, but when the video doesn't work, the voice is just as powerful. So again, I welcome you tonight, James G. I welcome you tonight, Ashton Burrell. And I'm excited because I know that tonight is going to be a great time of information and resources. And I know that a lot of the things that the both of you have been involved in, I know that you've been working diligently, not only for your communities and in your communities, but for our people. And we call tonight the other pandemic in America because we know that we have experienced the COVID-19, and it came on the scene, I guess, back in March. Because for me, the last day that I worked in my office was on March 16th. So I've been working from home ever since then. So we've passed the 3-month mark. And we knew that when the pandemic showed up, it was life-changing for many of us. We've had to navigate in a way that we have never navigated before. We've had to do some things. We've had to change some things. We've had to look at a whole lot of different things differently. So we dealt with the pandemic, learning to live with it, doing the things that we need to do to stay safe. Many people have lost family members and friends, and we've just doing life in a different way. But because we are a resilient people, we come from ancestors who chose not to give up. That's why we're standing here today. So we dealt with that pandemic, and then all of a sudden, something surfaced, something that has been in the earth for such a long time. But because of this pandemic and what I call a pause, we were all at home. We were all paying attention to social media. We were all in a situation where this level of racism, it surfaced and it manifested in the way that at that time, because of the pandemic, people could no longer turn their heads. They had to pay attention. So paying attention, and I'm talking about that concerning George Floyd. We know that he lost his life at the hands of an officer who had his knee on his neck, and it was recorded, and we saw it live. We saw the entire process live. So I called this the other pandemic simply because in addition to COVID-19, we're dealing with this racial injustice that is happening in the earth today. And let me start with you, G. Where were you and how did you feel the very first time you saw that video with George Floyd and the police officer?
Well, I don't know exactly where I was, being a person that works in politics and in public policy, you sort of spend all of your time on the news, watching MSNBC and CNN. And at some point, I got to see that horrible video that is traumatic for so many people. And I didn't, when I first saw it though, I kept thinking that this was a video that would show a person abused by the police, and that they would say at the end that he was hurt or he was in the hospital, but not not that he would expire at the end of this video. And I think that was the part that startled me, that we actually got to see on television, not only a person leave this earth, but a person leave the earth while other folk recognized his humanity, while the guy in the uniform did not. People walking by screamed, "Why don't you let him up? He doesn't look well. He doesn't look like he's breathing. You're on his neck." And none of those pleas seemed to resonate with the guy with his foot on his neck. And then it was so casual, with his hands in his pocket, putting his full weight on his neck. And so, it was a traumatic video. And you hear this and you see this. And we all, Black people in this country, have all heard the stories and always believe that not every Black man that they say is resisting was resisting. And we're always cautious whenever someone is killed by the police. But even still, even being that sort of jaded about police interactions with Black men, I still was shocked that this was captured on film. And then if you start thinking about the implications of that, the young people that would see it, the young people this is their first interaction, being a little older. I remember Rodney King when I was in college and the results of that. But if you start thinking back, there's been so many. And for every Black man and woman, we have a litany of names in the back of our mind, whether it's Amadou Diallo or whether it's Trayvon Martin or Eleanor Bumpus, depending on how old you are.
Yeah.
You have this library of disappointments of people who are tried on the streets, are tried for their crimes, and oftentimes their crimes nowhere near come up registered to be a death sentence, but it actually was a death sentence. And so what's sad about this is that everyone, just about every American, and certainly every Black American, can give you 5 to 10 to 12 names, depending on how old they are, of people who have met death on the street for some minor crime because of an interaction with the police.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Ashton, I see you're muted there.
Well, I would.
Go ahead and share with us. Where were you when you saw the video, and how did you feel?
Absolutely. I was actually scrolling through Instagram when I saw the video. And it's like how James just said, there's so much more exposure to stuff, at a younger age because of the algorithm and, whatever is going on in the social media. And I remember when I saw it, it was a post that said, sensitive post, so you have to accept the button to watch. And at first I didn't watch it because it was late, and I was like, you know what, it's late. I don't know if I even want to watch this right now. And then the next day when I woke up, it was the first video on my timeline, and I watched it. And I remember getting that same feeling I had when they did the verdict of Trayvon Martin on TV. And I remember getting that same feeling again. And just like that feeling of when is enough going to be enough. And it really hit home when he called for his mother. And I was definitely devastated, was hurt, because on top of him being one of our brothers here, that's us. That could literally be myself, that could literally be James, that could be one of my brothers, one of my uncles, anybody, even it could be a mother. I just saw a video of some sisters that came together in DC to give a makeover to one of our young queens that was taken by a couple white men and put into a dumpster. So it's in these times right now, I think it's trying to find the balance of keeping self-care, but also making sure that you're involved and doing everything to your capability of leaving everything better than when you first got to it.
No, that's real talk. And you mentioned something there that was so, for me as a Black mother and a Black woman, when I saw the video, I was disturbed by it, but immediately all I heard was him calling his mother. And at that time, when I first heard it, I had no idea that his mother had been deceased for 2 years. So, but it gripped my heart. And I have a 26-year-old Black male son, so that really, it really did something to me as a mother and as a woman. And, it is just really unfortunate. But as I said, when we started out, that this racism, it's been here forever. It's just now because we were forced to have a seat and to watch it, that now, while we Black people know that it exists, but now the world understands and see how real and it is right now. So that's if you had to take something positive out of it, it's unfortunate that our brother had to leave this way, but now people are paying attention. And the key is, you mentioned something about, you said, Ashton, about creating that balance. That balance is from being angry, understanding that I can be angry, but I don't have to be destroy things or different things like that. And while I understand, even with the rioters and the looters and all of that, there's so many things attached to that. Some people we know that have been planted in certain situations to cause the chaos, but then there's some young people who are just angry, and it's like nothing. This is the only way that they were able to release the emotions and the feelings that they had with all of this, because we as a people, I believe we really have to do a better job in teaching our young people, especially our young men, how to process their thoughts and their emotions so that we can learn to communicate together as a people, men and women across the board. So,
Absolutely. I was I was gonna say too. I think that's a great point. I think on both ends we have to improve on the communication, because I think sometimes like maybe the older people, they may think this is supposed to be the way that this younger person's supposed to understand something, and then the younger person feel like, man, it's not resonating with them, so they may act out in a certain way. Things like that. It's like you said, I think it's stripping down the normal realities, because the reality of what we once knew is definitely no longer here. We're in a new we're in a new we're in a new time. Like literally, like we went in March and came out in the whole, like the world will definitely not move the same way that it was moving like at the end of last year. You know, so it's gonna be, I think it's an adjustment on so many ends, and it's a good time to adjust right now. But make sure we adjust correctly.
exactly. We want to come out of this better than what we went in across the board. Because
Hmm.
2020 came in screaming and roaring and all of that, from Kobe to the pandemic to the George Floyd and all the other things. It's just been back to back to back to back. But I think we have to take individually, it's important that we become a part of our own rescue and understand that we have a responsibility within ourselves as individuals to process our emotions, to practice self-care, to be clear about who we are as a people. And then when we come together as one, the strength that we have in that, it's so much stronger. So we definitely have work to do within ourselves as individually and also as a community. Now, with that being said, Ashton, I think a couple of weeks ago you had, and I'm not sure if it was 2 weeks ago or less, but you had this amazing protest in Holland Park. And tell us what made you do that? What gave you the courage, and what inspired you to do that?
Definitely. Well, I first started like organizing in that fashion probably when I was about 19, so probably about like 10 years ago. And one of my first ones I did was for like I said, I got the same feeling with with Trayvon Martin and things like that. And I remember watching the Trayvon Martin verdict, and it was kind of like I think it was, like, it resonated a lot with all the young people because he was young, so we kind of saw ourselves, or we kind of saw one of our friends, and it was just stuff that young people do. How many times a young person get on the phone and take a walk, and walk to the store real quick, and you just never, it just never resonated with you, like, wow, you could leave your house for one simple thing, and next thing you know, you may not be coming back with whatever you went to the store to get. And I got that same feeling when I saw George Floyd's video. Um, and it's sad because it's like every day someone is saying, "Did you see the video? Did you see the video?" And you don't even know what video a person is talking about because there's so many. Like it's insane how flooded it is with with the lynchings of these people that look just like me, brothers and sisters of color. And it comes a time where, you can either wait on people to do something, or you can say to yourself, like, I'm going to do this. And, you kind of got to also think in your mind, it's not a lot of people may judge it off of judge the success off of how many people you get out, but it's not really about that, because even if you get that one person out to come hear what you're talking about, and what you're talking about is informational and able to be, and it has some great substance to help people actively get involved in the community and effectively make a change, then that one person you help, you spoke to, is able to take that back. And that was kind of the mindset that I kept with this, like I didn't see anyone organizing anything, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put something together. And I just was filled with so much like you said, frustration, just watch that video and then to see the officer just smirking. He's like smirking as he's literally taking a life from this man. And when I started organizing it and just seeing how many people felt the same way and really have had enough of it, that was, to me, that was the best part of it. And then one of the key things that I also wanted to make sure that I did with the protest was, have action steps there and things people can be doing. Like we had over like 300 voter registration forms go out at the protest. Um, we had some freeholders and some people from the local officials come and speak about bills that people should be supporting that can help you know to minimize the racism that's going on. People with game plans on numbers to help make sure that those officers were arrested. So just kind of bringing everyone together, because I know a lot of people wanted to get that off of their chest, but also having an action plan. So when we leave, we're not just leaving just because we just march, but we march and we also have action steps to take to follow the marching in the streets. We got duties to do when this is over as well. So that
But
was
it's
one of the things that
it,
my mindset.
Here's some information.
it's true. But the interesting part, Marcella, is that this is related to history, right? If you just sort of take a look at history, we've been fighting this fight for so long. If you look at, people talk about the civil rights era, and if you think about Edmund Pettus Bridge, Jimmy Lee Jackson was a young man that was murdered during that period of time. And then Emmett Till, and then this has been like a tradition. And then it just so happens that today is the actual day of the kidnap and murder and terroristic murder of Goodman, Cheney, and Swerner. My personal heroes, there were three young men who went to Mississippi in order to organize and to register voters, and the members of the Klan, white terrorists, basically murdered, killed them, and hid their bodies. James Cheney actually spent some time. I think his family lives in New Jersey. They died at 19 and 21 years old trying to register voters. And so I think it's important for us to connect to the past so that we don't just continue to do the same thing, right? We've been here before,
Right.
where there's been someone who fails to see our humanity. That person dies. A group of people are motivated to do better, and then somehow we find ourselves right back to where we were.
Right.
So like, it's almost like the more history you know, the more cautious you are about, while I'm very excited about the diversity of the people on the streets, that for the first time, it seems like there are like white people who are equally as upset as we are, who've recognized that this is a failure of acknowledgement of humanity. I'm also familiar enough with history to know that there's always great progress and then backlash, right? Like, so there was Reconstruction when Black people were elected to Congress and to office. And then there was the severe backlash where we were put back and Jim Crow reared its ugly head, and we were subjected to 100, 150 years of just the most horrible treatment. And so while I hope that there are some signs when Nike acknowledges that Black Lives Matter, we've got to make sure that we organize in a way that ensures that we move forward from this, right? That this doesn't become like what Kwanzaa has become, just a commercial use of a holiday, that we somehow get somewhere from that. And I think that the reason why I work in politics is because, politics is the constant protest. Angela Davis said that struggle is a constant process. And I think that staying involved in politics, both from the policy end and in the voting end, it allows you to constantly be in the struggle, right? It feels real good, and it's it's in some ways cathartic to be in the street yelling, and the frustration may boil over to breaking windows or to doing whatever that you wouldn't otherwise do. But I think that it takes more time, effort, and thought to try to figure out how to ensure that the system turns its attention to the communities that you most care about. And that's sort of what politics does. That's certainly what voting does. No matter what happens, whoever gets the most votes on an election day wins. And so oftentimes elections are decided based on our ability to get folk who don't normally show up to show up. And it's one of the things that excites me about it. And I think it's important for us to connect our particular problem now to the struggles that we've had in the past, and to recognize how right now what we're going through is similar and how right now is different. And it's important for young people who are on the streets to explore that, to try to make sure that we make a difference and don't make the mistakes of the past, and that we advance more than we did in the past, because we've been here before.
Right. Yeah. And it's so funny you said that, because my next question to you, I was going to say, I was going to ask you about that concerning the past and the history and everything, and you jumped right on that, and that's really good.
Last thing. There's one thing. The other thing is that it's very interesting that a lot of the discussion is about George Floyd, and it should be, and a lot of the discussion is about the young man in Atlanta, and it should be. But it seems that there is a blatant sort of disrespect and disregard, and maybe it's not so blatant, but it seems that when an African-American woman is confronted with the same challenges, that it doesn't take off in a national way in the same way. And I know that it seems almost disrespectful to the people who have passed, like George Floyd, to point it out. But Atiana Jefferson was a young lady who the police came to her home. She was in her bed sleep, and she got shot through a window. She wasn't running from the cops. This was in Texas. Mm-hmm. And that happened maybe 2 months before Breonna Taylor, who was an emergency worker working during this time where we're lauding first responders. She was such a first responder, and she got shot in her home with a no-knock warrant, and she died. And while people remember those cases, it didn't spark the kind of response that we had. And maybe it was the fact that we didn't have actual video, but it's important to acknowledge, I think, the intersectionality of race and gender, to recognize that there are women who have the added pressure of being both Black and a woman. And when something happens to them, I think it's taken differently by the press, it's handled differently. And, we know Trayvon Martin, but it's really hard for people to remember those cases that happen to women. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that and to lift them up in the same way.
No, I agree with that, definitely. And especially with both of those cases, we heard about them, but they just didn't have the I guess we didn't talk about it long enough, is what I should say. We didn't talk about it long enough. We heard about it, we were upset about it, and then it just went away. And like you said, one important thing that you said, we've been here before. We've been here before. And I think what we have to do as a people and as a community, in answering the question, what's next, we have to make sure that we're intentional about moving forward. And for you, James, you're a father and you have little people. You have a son and a daughter. How does this make you feel? How do you see the future? What do you feel as a father living in times like this and dealing with
Well,
your children?
it's difficult, right? So I had to have a conversation with. I have twins, so I have a boy and a girl. But we had to have a conversation with both of them about the police, and my conversation with my children, my son, my daughter, I suspect is much different than their white classmates, much different than my white friends and what they say. It never dawned on me before how easy it must be if you are white to talk about the police, because the police is the bad guy. I mean, the police is the good guy and the criminal is the bad guy. That ain't the case for us. And so you're forced to have a discussion that's sort of nuanced, because you don't want your children not to think that to think that the police are bad people, but you have to approach describing the police and explaining our history around the police much in the same way you would in explaining our history with a snake. You don't hate snakes. You don't want people to go around killing snakes. But if you encounter a snake, it's probably best you just stay away from it.
Right.
Like you don't know if that's a good snake or a bad snake. You just based on the history, you want to stay away from the snake. And so the as a black family, the frustrating part about all of this is that no one knew if George Floyd had a PhD or no D. No one knew what George Floyd did if he went to church on Sunday or not. That George Floyd could have been anyone, and what is frustrating about it and scary for black men to be, if they're honest, is that every time we walk out the door, anything can happen. And we recognize that there are some white people that only see white people as people. And that's what has to change.
And that's true, because we know that even in some of the conversations concerning George Floyd, they think that it's okay that he was killed that way simply because they identify him as a criminal. So what they're saying is that, well, all criminals just in because of his past and different things that he has done, that because of that he deserved to die. And that is so not true. You look at as a person, as a human, but we're not doing that. So we understand that they're really saying that because he was a black person who had a past, then his life was not worth living, and we should get over it and keep it moving.
So, and knowing our rights, right? That like, even if you had a past, even if that guy, if someone had done the worst thing in the world, the law says, the Constitution says, you have a right to a trial. Mm-hmm. That cop does not have the right to end your life there. That there may be a dispute between what the police believes and what you believe, and you have a right to go to court and figure it out, and a jury of your peers to judge you by it. You do not have the right to make life-ending decisions on the street. And so that's one of the ways that Asa and I, my son, we had a discussion about it, was to try to make sure that he understood why we're against this, because we can't be exactly like the thing that we can't be exactly like the people and the things that we dislike, right? So we have to, if we believe in the Constitution, if we believe what was done to Mr. Floyd and so many others is wrong, then we have to be able to advocate for what's right. I think what's being lost in this discussion about whether or not we should end the police, I think the language is wrong about what we're saying. What we're saying is that there's been a hyper funding of police at the demise of other issues, that for politicians, an easy way to demonstrate your belief in the communities that send you to whatever office that you hold is to secure resources that protect the voters. And in so many communities, that means giving whatever you can to the police. And in doing so over the years, we have empowered the police at the expense of others. And it's just a crazy thought to think about, that like Philando Castile died because someone with a high-powered gun, pulled him over for out back light. Now, when you're downtown in any city and you get a parking ticket, it doesn't necessarily have to be with someone with a gun. You can get a parking ticket from, a nice little old lady in a golf cart. And if she decides that you've been there too long, she will write you a ticket. And nothing you can do about it but pay that ticket or go to court. There are some things that we do that we don't need folk with a high powered gun. And there's some things that we may need to send a guy with a high powered gun. But so much of what happens to Black people and people who live in poverty, we send somebody with a high powered gun. Not only somebody with a high powered gun, we send somebody who is not accustomed to the mores of that area.
Right.
We send someone who was raised in a way that says that the area that you're going into is dangerous and the people have humanity that's different than yours. And your number one priority should be that you come out alive.
Right.
And so with that backdrop, people come to our communities not realizing that there's a difference between some guys and some other guys, and they can't tell the difference. And so they treat us all the same. And they're quick on the trigger, and their number one priority is their safety as opposed to the people that they're sworn to protect. And so I think that the movement to make sure that let's figure out, if you get a call about someone who's having a mental struggle, that we send people that deal with mental issues.
Right.
If you're going to a high school and there's a problem with the high school and there's a fight, maybe you don't need a guy with a gun that can arrest someone. Maybe there's a way to deal with the high school in a different way, with people that are able to discern when there's an emergency, when there's a problem, and when there isn't. But if you spend all of your time riding around picking up bad guys, when someone sends you into a school, you're looking for a bad guy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Ashton, you deal with a lot of young people. You do mentoring. What conversations have you had with them during this time?
Well, we not just during this time. That's something that's been in the program since we started in 2011. We had programs like COP, called Comforting Our People, where it gave young people a chance to have dialogue with officers. We started that back in 2012. So the discussion with them is every day, really. But one thing that I have noticed is a lot of them now want to step up more, and they want to know how to lead and get involved. They just need direction on it. So I think, like, the conversation, it didn't just start with them, but a lot of the times, the conversations we have, sometimes I bring in a Black officer, that looks just like these kids, so that they can have a real dialogue with them, and he'll keep it real with them, about any type of question and things that they may have. We got a thing called the 411 from the NAACP. Know your rights. It's a little booklet they all have. We have copies of it at the teen center, for anybody that needs a copy. So we had conversations like that. We did a conversation on watching When They See Us. So that was actually pretty good, and just different discussions, kind of bringing it up and letting them get off their chest how they feel, and then kind of filling it in with the education that they may not have on, what they're talking about, and just having them understand that, a lot of the kids, especially younger ones, a lot of them are still in a bubble, and they don't even understand what it means to be a young Black man or a young Black woman. So the conversation's been helping them understand that more. And the good thing about that is, on top of the conversation with how to interact with, the officers and things of that nature, a lot of the kids are finding themselves more. You're able to tap into to other things with them in their mind, that also helps for, the betterment for their future. But the conversations, involving police, just, how to carry yourself, how to conduct yourself, realizing that, you know, you are a person of color, you are a target, anything can happen to you at any time, you know, making sure they're aware. You know, a lot of them are graduating right now. So we've been having a lot of conversations about school. I had the dean of Georgian Court, who's a brother from Alpha Phi Alpha. You know, I had him come in and talk to the athletes, the male athletes, on, you know, sexual misconducts in college. You know, what to do accused of something, or, you know, just so many different things the topics have gone with, but that's definitely been how it's been going though.
So that brings up a good point too, that we've got to figure out. Everyone talks about problems with police. We got to make sure that law enforcement is an option for people of color. But the other thing, to move the conversation a little bit further, is that a lot of people have issues with police decisions, and when there's a bad cop that does something, and then the police gets off, people go crazy, and there's a protest. Well, there's a way to mitigate that. You can't be anti bad police getting off, and then when you get a notice in the mail for jury duty, you try to figure out how to get out of it. Like, the two don't mix, right?
Yeah.
You can't be like, how he get off, and then when you get it, be like, I gotta figure out an excuse to get out of this. Like, you have to serve.
That's real.
And you can't get one of those notices if you're not registered to vote. You want to increase the possibility that you're going to be in the box for the jury, then you ought to register to vote and actually vote, because that keeps you on the rolls and ensures that you are of the people who they invite to sit in the jury box, so that when people go down, that there is actually a representative sample of people's peers who are listening to their case. I think that's two ways that people are disconnected. Then the other part is, there's some policy decisions that make our communities so separate. I think that one of our issues in America is the segregation that happens. There's this huge segregation where there's white people live in one area and black people live in another, and more so, poor people live in one area and people with more resources live somewhere else. And that is not by accident. That is by design. That one of the great things that the congresswoman that I worked for when she was a legislator started this thing called A500 that basically required every community to build affordable housing, to ensure that every community had in it a responsibility to have affordable housing. What that did, and what that translates to, is that there's no community that is overburdened with poverty. It deconcentrates poverty, because there's a whole bunch of things that is wrong with concentrated poverty that makes it difficult for people to live. And so we've got to not only vote, but we've got to vote for people that make the changes that we want, right? And so there's an entire prison industrial complex. There are people who actually make money from more people being in jail because they run private prisons. And so the Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, who I work for, has a bill, the only bill in Congress, to make private prisons illegal, because we believe, and she believes, that if there is a profit motive to putting people in jail, then you will put people in jail, right? And so we have to support people who support those kind of bills. So it's not enough for us to just write our name down, write our address down, get on the voter rolls, and then every 4 years vote. But for you to vote for mayor, for school board, to vote every time that election door opens, and also to press people to ensure that they're doing the things that you want them to do. It's difficult for Bonnie Watson Coleman to raise money like other politicians, because we don't take money from people who make tobacco products. We don't take money from people who are involved in building oil refineries or underground oil industries. We don't take money from payday lenders, right? But there are people who take money from all of those bad industries because there are people who aren't paying attention. So some of the people that we represent, people that you would think would be riding high and fighting for the communities that you think they should be fighting for are the very people that are empowered by some of the worst communities, some of the worst industries in America. I think that there's a responsibility beyond voting, but you have to pay attention to really what the goals are of why you're voting in the first place.
Yeah. Yes. So basically you said we have work to do.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, and one thing that I try to encourage people, because there are some people who talk badly about people who don't protest, or some people talk badly about Christians who go to church and only pray, or some people, but we all have a piece. We are all a piece of the puzzle. And I think the important thing is to know and learn the ways that make us effective individually. And going back to what I said before, when you do things individually, you build yourself up, you learn for yourself, you find out where you are effective in. So then when we come together, it makes us so much better. So there's definitely work for us to do, but understand that, and I think this is what was said earlier, because older people look at things one way, younger people look at things the other way. But if we bring it together and understand that we are all in this together, we will definitely be so much better. So that we definitely have work to do. So what I want to do at this time, I appreciate those of you who are over there and you're commenting. I see you, Nancy. I see you, Connie. Thank you all so much. I see you, LaShawn. I thank you so much for your comments. I see you, Diane. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. And what I want to do at this time, I am going to give both our guests an opportunity to really share what's on their heart, letting you know the areas of focus that they concentrate in, and we're going to go from there. So first, I am going to start with James G. James G, as he mentioned, he is the chief of staff for Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman. And if anybody knows G, they know that he deals with campaigns, he deals with voter registration. He just has a heart for this, and he's been doing this for quite some time. So G, at this time, I am going to give you the floor, and I am going to allow you to share your heart with the people concerning some things that you know are really relevant and important today, and just give us some tools and different things that you have already done so that we can be better together. So we're going to give you the floor at this time.
So I don't have I think I've talked a lot. I don't have a lot to say, except that, like I said before, and given what I do, I really do think it's important for us to pay attention, that we ought to have ideas that are ready to go for how to improve the situations that we want to see improved. It's one thing to holler and scream about what is wrong. It's another thing to figure out how to fix those things. And most of this is intrinsically linked to our ability to demonstrate our own political power. It is not just about political power, but political power changes things. And like I said before, voting is the constant protest. There are people who won't support certain things because they know that the impact of supporting something or not supporting something will mean that people will vote them out of office. And what we ought to do is to empower our vote in such a way that people are afraid to do in the dark things to us that will turn us against them. And I think that a lot of things are being done in the dark. The other thing that I want to say is that we have to encourage young people, our young people, to get involved in politics. So many people I hear say, I don't want my kid involved in politics because politics is dirty, or they should do something else. If we only have people, bad people who are doing politics, then it will continue to be dirty. We have to raise up a new group of people who are interested in this stuff that can be interpreters for our community. There is a language in politics, there's a language in public policy that could confuse you if this is not something that you do all the time. And we need a new group, a cadre of young people who have trained their minds in such a way that allows urban communities, poor communities, communities that need help, figure out new ways to empower those communities. I think that the great part of what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is the great melting pot of people who are out showing outrage for the lack of humanity that made George Floyd's death possible. Hopefully, that rainbow of people will also indicate that people will want to live in different places that they wouldn't have lived otherwise. That urban communities will be places that are not gentrified or are not clusters of poverty. That people will live in diverse communities where there is diverse incomes and diverse backgrounds, and in that way you start to see the humanity in people regardless of their color. I think that one of the struggles that America has is that people live so far apart and engage so much with the people that look like them, that make the same money that they make, that that party like them, that was educated like them, that they begin to believe that the only people that are people that they know and that look like them. But the reality is that all of humanity has to be taken care of, and we have to find political and public policy that encourages that. And I really believe that starts with diversified housing. That the notion of affordable housing is not some liberal left wing crazy black talk, but it is actually the thing that will make America finally be America. W.E.B. Du Bois said that the problem of American democracy is that we haven't tried it yet. And I think that we're still there. That American democracy is a great thing, but we haven't tried it yet. And I'll be glad when we get a chance to actually try it.
That's awesome. And what I have a question for you, based on something that you said concerning getting young people involved in politics and public policy. So how would one go about getting involved, a young person graduating high school? What would you recommend to them? What would you recommend to their parents in terms of helping?
So I literally I can't remember when I decided to go into politics. I started working in the legislative office of John S. Watson, the congresswoman I work for now. Her father was a state legislator in the assembly when I was the summer between my 6th and 7th grade year. And I started volunteering in his office at that time. And from that time, I started to learn more than someone in the 7th grade probably should know. And eventually that grew to be my career. The good part about that story is that obviously John Watson was significantly older than I was at that time, and he imparted in me values that were also and remain older than I am. But my entree to politics, thanks to him, was that the purpose of it is to serve people. And the purpose of it is to give voice to people that don't normally get in these rooms. And so you have to be sure that you never forget where you came from. So we need the young brother that's on this platform with me to get involved in politics and to not forget the people who he was standing next to at his protest, right? Because in Congress, I don't run into poor people who are concerned about how they're going to pay their Section 8. I don't run into poor people who have a record, who have concerns about whether or not they're going to be able to go to college because they have that record, right? But if there are people who are making the law, who understand the realities, the real realities of real Americans, then we can make the law in a way that is responsive to the needs that those people have. And so I would encourage people to get involved and to try to understand issues. Issues are not as complex as you think they are. They're only complex because there are people who are crafting those issues, who are crafting them without you in mind. And so when someone wrote the conspiracy law, this is a really short, the conspiracy law suggests that you can be prosecuted for conspiracy if you fail to stop the crime. So if I'm in a barbershop and two guys are talking about shooting somebody, and I don't affirmatively jump up and say, hey, you all ought to stop planning to shoot that guy, or I'm going to go to the police. If there's a wire underneath that table and these guys are planning to shoot somebody and I didn't affirmatively try to stop them, I can also be charged for conspiracy for the crime that they're doing. Now, if anybody, the first time I heard that in law school, I thought, man, nobody from the hood wrote that law, because if you grew up in the hood, you know that the rule is you mind your business. And if that ain't got nothing to do with you, it ain't got nothing to do with you. My point is that there are certain laws that are written that are counterproductive to how people actually live, because people don't know how other people actually live.
Right.
And so we need everybody to be involved in the process so that the laws take into account the reality of your real life. Otherwise, things that you do and things that you have to do will be made penalties in the laws that are written. And you will be forever subject to those penalties just for living your life. And so many people are catching hell because the people who wrote the laws have never lived the life that the people who are most affected by the laws have to live, you know. So I try to make people understand that. And so many times, you know, we praised President Obama for letting out so many people who were in jail for long periods of time. A lot of people were denied the ability to be let out under those programs, because the first people that they let out under this early release, trying to do away with the severe penalties that had locked people away from the war on drugs. The first release said that you could not have violence on your jacket because they didn't want to let out people who were violent. But one of the things that makes you violent on your jacket is what? Interacting with the police and kicking a police, or if a police just writes down that when I tried to arrest Marcella, she resisted arrest. That could be considered violent. And so if you make the law for early release that nobody who was violent could get out on early release, even though the reason why they went in wasn't fair, then there are a lot more people that aren't going to be eligible. And so my point is that we need people who live real lives to bring those real lives to the discussions as we make the laws. And that's really what we do in Congress and in politics, is to make laws that really impact people. And if you're not in the room, then those laws could be crafted in a way that affect you when you're just living.
So are there any programs for young people that you know of right now that young people can get involved in?
The big one I would say is that if you have a relative, and this is weird, but if you have a relative that lives in and around the city of Washington, D.C., and so many of us do, you should get your young person, whoever they are, and whatever reason why they're going to college, whatever their major is, to intern in Congress. That's just my first statement, is that, like, nobody who gets to work on the Hill, 90% of people that worked on the Hill interned on the Hill. And one of the big barriers for you working on the Hill is actually living in DC, because it's so expensive. And it is a regular occurrence that rich kids who want to be doctors, that they will spend the summer on the Hill working as an intern, because their parents recognize no matter what field you go into, spending a summer on the Hill is a good way to spend it, a good way to spend your summer in between college. So I would say that first. Secondly, there's interns at the high school level and the college level in the State House, which is also an opportunity for you to get to learn the process. The intern program in Congress is often lily white, and where it's not lily white, it is very much a upper middle class dominated area, because the cost of interning, the cost of living in DC, the cost of of traveling in DC and eating in DC is such that it's difficult. That's why I always tell people that if you have a student who has anyone, if they go to school in DC and can stay in the dorms, or if they have any relative near DC, that they take advantage of that opportunity to do that. So interning is the best way to do it, whether it's on a campaign or in the state house or in the mayor's office. But certainly the best internship to do while you're in college is to be an intern on Capitol Hill.
All right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now I am going to bring Ashton back to the platform and give him an opportunity to share what's on his heart. Again, Ashton is an author. He is a mentor. He has so many different things that are going on. He's a humanitarian, he calls himself, which is amazing. And I just want to give you an opportunity at this time, Ashton, to share your heart concerning what's going on and offer any tools and strategies that you can, that the viewers can use to move forward in an effective way. You have to unmute yourself. Here you go.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, I definitely won't be long. It's like in the time that we have right now, just off the back, I started a mentorship program in 2011, while I was a sophomore at Lincoln University. And I would come every Thursday night until I graduated back to run a program. We've had 100% graduation rate. The program has helped over 1,500 kids throughout the state of New Jersey go on to graduate from high school. We do a lot of different seminars, whether it be how to tie a tie, how to set up a bank account. We've had like people come in to teach kids how to invest. We have entrepreneurship programming. Um, Things of that nature. And that was one of the things that I just wanted to make sure I did with the program. Was expose the youth to different things that's outside of their normal comfort zone. I know that was one of the things that changed my point of view of life. When I was in high school as a sophomore, a teacher recommended me to go on a study abroad program, which is a program I think is still around. People could look up. It's called People to People Student Ambassador Program. And it recommended me to go, and I didn't have the money to go at the time, but I did a fundraiser, and I was able to see how many people actually believed in me to want to go somewhere, and I was able to go to England, Ireland, and Wales. And I remember when I came back, my whole view, I started to like to travel. B, I wanted more for myself so I could travel, and it was things like that I felt was needed for myself to pass on to the kids and young people that I help mentor and things of that nature. We have a new program called Hometown Hero Club where we help people um, create these type of programs, whether it be in the school, their companies, their communities, and things like that. So you can go on hometownheroclub.com, fill out the form, and could definitely help people get involved. And things that come to mind during these times is 4 words: patience, discipline, education, and action. And I said patience because, like you said earlier, a lot of times you see people just, bashing people for praying, or bashing people for not marching, and bashing people for not doing this, not doing that. And people just got to remember, everybody moves at their own pace, and everybody's running their own marathon, you know. And even people that, get on people for not quote unquote being woke, you know what I mean? It was the point where, you weren't quote unquote woke. So I say patience because realizing that everybody's starting from different places, and the goal is to just make sure that everybody understands it and gets involved. I say discipline because it's going to take discipline for a lot of the movements that we have. And so it's going to cause for some of us to probably do things that we don't want to do, but we have to, and that comes with discipline and education. Just learn as much as possible. We've been blessed with the gift, the gift and the curse of the internet. So there's a lot of information out there for us to find, to look up, and things of that nature to actually find these type of programs. You can literally type in whatever type of program you're looking for on the internet, and it'll come up. And then action, because I just feel like everybody plays a part in the act. So it's just like having a great team. Every even in basketball, you got 5 great players that makes a starting lineup, and that's how we got to kind of look at how we moving and what we doing now. We're gonna need the prayer warriors. We're gonna need the protesters. We're gonna need the people that know how to do the technology at home. Everybody can play a instrumental role in the change that we all trying to see. So I think if we move like that, I think this could kind of move towards better programs and even better game plans that we can come to the table and say, what, this is the game plan we all agree on as one, and this is what we want, as a whole. So I would just say those four words for right now. And if anybody would like to get involved with me, hometownheroclub.com, and I'll definitely make sure to reach out to you, and we can definitely take it from there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let me just go back here and get us all
Absolutely.
in here. That was good. You said patience, discipline, education, and action. And those are some powerful words. And I did put the website to your Hometown Hero Club in the comments so people can see it there. So I just want to thank you all for this, making time tonight to have this conversation. The thing that I love about this platform is that it will get to repeat itself over and over and over and over again. I have replays from the beginning of time, and people are still watching them. People are still commenting on them, and that's really good. But before we go, G, I want you to remind everybody about voting date in New Jersey, because I know that there have been some changes because of the pandemic. I want you to remind them about the voting date, and I want you to remind them or give them a little bit more insight concerning the mail-in vote, because I received my mail-in vote at home already.
Yeah, the primary election is happening on July 7th. This year has been unique because of COVID. County clerks sent to just about every registered Democrat and Republican, because this is the primary, an absentee ballot. It came in something that looked like this. I should show you this one. It came in something that looked like this, and it when you fill it out and send it back, it looks like this. A lot more people will be voting by mail this year because of the viral concerns. It's pretty simple. You fill it out. You fill out your ballot. You don't have to. You can vote for anybody you like, with the exception of Bonnie Watson Coleman. You have to vote for her, and and then you send it back right from home. There will be limited amounts of polling places that are open. Typically, the state law in New Jersey is that every 6 blocks there is a polling place, but this time there'll be limited polling places because the changes were made for COVID. But everybody got an opportunity to vote by mail, and I would encourage folk to do that and to get your ballot in quickly, so that we know who won the night of the election as opposed to 2 or 3 weeks later. So it's important for folk to do it. I know that just because I pay attention to this stuff, 22,000 or so people got ballots in Trenton, and only 400 have been returned. So a lot of folk who are watching this have one of these things on your table or on your TV stand before it falls behind it and you forget. Fill it out tonight and get it back to us. Voting is important. A bunch of people died for the right to vote. As a matter of fact, it just so happens that today is the anniversary death of Goodman, Cheney, and Swerner. Those of you who don't know who those 3 young men are, I'd encourage you to Google that. It's a fascinating story that Hollywood bastardized and called it Mississippi Burning. A story it was not about FBI agents. It was about these 3 great young men, 2 Jewish and 1 black, who went to Mississippi to register voters at a time when it was dangerous to do so, and they were killed. And so they are real heroes. Today just happens to be the anniversary of their death. And I would encourage folk to make sure that you use your right to vote and make that happen.
Awesome, awesome. So you all, please don't forget that, because there's so many, and we talked about this briefly, the three of us, before we came on air. The campaign, and I'm calling it a campaign for lack of another word, where Charlemagne the God is talking about. He's talking about, how did he say it? Not just voting and voting just because this is our party that we vote on, but voting and making sure that we hold these people that we vote for accountable for our votes. So some people misinterpret that his mission is that he does not want us to vote. So we don't want you to get twisted with that logic or that process. He's just saying that we should, in addition to voting, we still should hold the people we vote for accountable, so that they will do the things that they promise us during this time. It's important for us to not just get so excited about the presidential vote, but understand that it's all the other offices that are underneath that are very important and vital for us. As James G. said, that those are the ones who are making the decisions and things like that. So we have to get involved. We have to pay attention. We have to support people like Ashton, who is working with our young people, who are giving them a voice and teaching them and putting them on the help to put them on the path that is going to help them as they continue to move forward. Ashton, I don't know if you have anything else going on similar to what you did with the protests. Do you have something else that you want to share about something else that you're doing at this time?
Yeah. I think I would definitely people can send me an email at aburrellhp@gmail.com. I have an email list going around. When I get info, if people send me protests and things of that nature, I send it out to the email list. So if anybody's interested, I can add them to that list.
Okay. So
If
after
they
this,
email saying,
right after this, when we end this, because I missed what that was, you can just come and find the live and put your email address in there. And then that way people can get connected, because what he's saying is that he has an active email address. And when he finds out about protesting, different programs and all of that, he sends that information out to all of those people who are on his email list. So that's why it's important to stay connected to him and to become a part of that email list. What you talked about, the action step for people when you had that protest? What was the action step that you put out there for people to follow through on after the protest? What did you ask everybody to do after the protest?
there were a few things. I have a list. It was about 20 things on the list. But I know some of them call for people to actually get involved. Start going to Board of Education meetings, start going to their council meetings, start going to zoning meetings, things of that nature, to really start getting involved within their community. Knowing where their budget's going to. Uh, uh, Understand local politics from understanding the part of town. Some of the things we gave people numbers to call to demand that certain officers be arrested for the crimes that they committed. So it was a list of those things. It was a couple protests that were coming up that was sent out for people to come to. And sharing info. That was one of the biggest things. A lot of times people sit on info that can help others, and it's kind of like you have information that can help other people. Share it. Share it, whether it be on your social media, whether it be a text message that you send out, just, share as much positive knowledge that can be of help to people right now as possible. But that was some of the callings. And also you can get involved in human relations committees that your town should have. And if not, maybe you should look towards maybe your local politicians to possibly start one up.
All right, that's awesome, awesome, awesome. G, is there a website that people can go to find out more about like openings and different things about the legislator, about town hall, anything like that? Is there one particular website where they can go to find out just a bunch of information for their area for the state of New Jersey?
Yeah, so like no matter where you are, whatever county you're in, the county clerk has all the information for when, how to register, how to get involved, when your county clerk's office will have, when the freeholder board meets. The same thing for municipal government. In terms of like good websites to learn, I think that folks should, Politico, C-SPAN is great for you to learn process about politics. But also I think that, you also can go to any member of Congress's actual website. Ours is pretty simple. Her Twitter is Rep Bonnie or Bonnie Watson Coleman. Rep Bonnie Watson Coleman is our, look for our website. And on that has a bunch of information on how to visit, on how to get information, how to intern, how to request a flag or visit Congress and get, in normal circumstances, get a tour. All those things are on our website. So I would encourage you to take a look there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight was a night that was filled with information resources. We talked about the pandemic. We talked about George Floyd. We talked about racial injustice. We provided you with resources. Both of these gentlemen shared a portion of their lives with you that told you how they got involved with politics or got involved with the mission and the causes. Ashton is a handsome young man. I'm so sorry that you all can't see his face tonight. Handsome young man who is excited about what he has been called to do. He is definitely walking in purpose. And I say the same thing about James G. Both of these men have been dedicated since I've known them, and they've definitely made an impact in their communities. So we want to thank them so much for taking time to be here with us tonight. Maybe we'll do this again down the road when it gets closer to election day or something, just to make sure that people are reminded of the different things that they need to do so that we can make changes, so that we just not walking and having these protests and being verbal and talking, but we want to be a people of action. We want to be a part of our own rescue. We want to be the game changers in our own lives and in our community so that we can see a change, so that our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, so that when we are no longer here, that our voices will still be in the earth, that our names will still be sketched in this earth during this time, that we were not just individuals who lived here in this earth, but we were game changers. And we did everything in our power to make sure that our voices are heard, and that we help other individuals. So this has been great. I thank you both for being here with us tonight. You can follow James G on Instagram at JamesG2. You can follow Ashton at Ashton_Burrell on Instagram. Please make sure that you connect with these men, both of them, just to continue learning. And you hear G is a history man. He could tell you that Black history, and that's a blessing, because I think that one of the downfalls of for us as a people is our young people don't know their history. The Jewish, they teach their children about the Holocaust. They make sure that they know. The Chinese have a Chinese school. They make sure that over here in America that they know their history, they know their language, and we just have to do a better job with teaching our people our history, so that, like you said, G, we've been here before. So we take our history and our now, we connect them together. We will have so much more power. And it wasn't just about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was a powerful voice in this earth, but there were so many others that left their footprints in this earth, and our young people and our children need to know those other names. So again, we're grateful to you all tonight. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for being here. Please, even after this, share this broadcast. Let other people know. People who are not able to be here tonight, we can share. We can share. I'll probably do a bunch of watch parties over the next couple of weeks, but we definitely want this information to be heard, because in addition to that, I want people to know that we have Black men who are successful. We have Black men who know their stuff. We have Black men who are about changing their communities, and they're mission minded, and they are here to help you. They're here to help me, and they're here to just do some other amazing things in our lives. So thank you once again for being here. We appreciate you all. Again, thank you. And don't forget to stay connected to Marcella D. Moore. This is the page that you watch this broadcast on. After this broadcast is over, go back and like and love, or however you choose to do this broadcast. And again, please share. So thank you all so much. Thank you, James. Thank you, Ashton. Appreciate you both so very much. And
thank you for having us.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing even the greater things that you guys are going to do. So thank you again for being here and sharing with us tonight. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You too.
All right. Take care.